We stand at the threshold of a great dawning. Something deep within life is changing. An era is ending. And at the very core of creation, something new is being born. We are awakening from a long collective sleep, an in vitro dreaming deep within the womb of our Mother Earth. We are awakening.
Would you agree with me that on the other hand, these are bad times and negative things going on, and our health is going down the drain, population control, maybe we might even call it genocide in a way. But on the other side, would you agree to me that these are very transformational opportunities, that we are in very important times where we the people can say no more, and now we choose what kind of paradise we do want to implement on this earth, and not all this negativity we do not want for our bodies and for our children, for our future.
You're totally right. We are all energy. Good grief, you have all the energy, what you have in you. You have all the love for your children and grandchildren. Use that energy every day. When you do the dishes, when you clean up, whatever.
Consciously.
Think. Consciously, I send love, I send love, I send love. And that's going to be an energy of love which hinders the negativity to realize their plans.
No negativity can exist when we are in such a sacred space environment, right?
Exactly. We are all programmed by ourselves, like a computer programming, from birth to death.
Cosmic contract.
Exactly.
Or we forget
and
science.
it just happens.
Yeah.
Life is so different when you realize who you are. You're a consciousness. You can't die.
Birthing into a family of light.
Know thyself. This is the key for me. It's the kind of thing, know thyself. It sounds kind of trite, but there's a difference between thinking and knowing. The computer thinks. The computer has emotions. They're electrochemical processes. That's why chemicals can affect emotions, and emotions produce chemicals in the body. There is another level, consciousness, beyond the program, which does not think and does not what some American New Age people call emote. It just knows. It knows, it intuitively knows. You see, when you access that level of infinite consciousness, infinite possibility, you access that level of infinite knowing. Infinite consciousness doesn't sit down and work things out. No, what do you think? It knows. It is all-knowing. We are all-knowing. Once we start to think and try to work things out, we are accepting that we are not all-knowing. When we stop thinking, the first stage is think for yourself. Yes, that gets the old process moving, but it's only stage one. The next stage is know thyself. Know anything you want to know without thinking. You just know it. We call it intuitive knowing. I just kind of knew that. Why didn't I go with my knowing? Because thought was saying, can't be that easy. You've got a mortgage, you've got a cat, you can't follow your knowing and go here. No, mate, you've got to stick in the box. And knowing is the level where we're accessing that level of us that is all-knowing, all-aware consciousness. And if we think that's not possible, that's just an expression of the fact we're still, to an extent, stuck in the box.
Intersecting and interpenetrating in a joyous experience of this present moment.
Waking. But then there's a state of consciousness that's called cosmic consciousness, which is beyond the physical world and basically a record of the entire history of the universe.
So it is belonging to the cosmos. Everything is written in the sky. It's not belonging to human beings. You simply cannot go and bring it in such a tangible form. It's something that can be accessed through your mind, through your brain power, through your spiritual wavelength.
The cycle of being separate is closing. It is a great step up in our evolution into multi-dimensional awareness. A new man will be born. Homo Celestis. One who can live in peace on the earth. One capable of moving through many worlds and dimensions. One who seeks to share energy and creativity in harmony and the spirit of cooperation. One who can transmit peace into other worlds and other planes of existence.
Alternative. And I have been a healer myself. I have melted a tumor which shocked me, really shocked me as a medical doctor, that you can do it concentrating. The energy is not coming from you, it's coming through you.
As channel.
Exactly. So when you realize that you are a consciousness, you are a psyche, you are intelligence, you are energy. That, I think, is the most important thing to reveal to the human race.
So consciousness comes first.
Absolutely.
And matter follows the direction of consciousness.
Exactly. It's the driver that says where the car goes, not vice versa.
Ancient texts and traditions have reminded us that we are connected. They've said that we are one, that we are part of our world, that we're part of one another, that we're part of the earth and the changes in the earth. And what I've found is, over the last 22 years, as I've traveled nearly every continent of the earth and spoken to people from so many different traditions and cultures, is that people really want to believe that. They want to believe, and they like to believe that we're truly connected, but they need a reason.
I know how to reorient the spirit to better heal the body.
Spirit to heal the body. All right, how do we do that? Where do we start?
Religious pilgrims seeking enlightened wisdom travel here to a temple dedicated to the celestial sage Narada. According to the Hindu scriptures, Narada had the supernatural ability to gain access to a hidden domain that most humans are completely unaware of, the realm of cosmic knowledge.
The Akashic field, it's the immeasurable potential of all that was, is, and will ever be. It's completely non-local. Non-local means there's no experience of space or time. This is the level of entanglement where everything in the universe is inseparably correlated with everything else in the universe.
I have always called the universe the wireless network, where information is just out there and stored from all our minds and memories, from every creature living in this universe. This bank of knowledge has been with us since the formation of the universe.
Don't like that map?
Oh no, it's really good. It's just, I've seen it before in gift shops.
And what about this one?
Acupuncture, great.
Yeah. What about that one?
You're showing me an MRI scan. I do not believe this.
Each of those maps was drawn up by someone who could see in part, but not the whole.
I spent my last dollar getting here. one-way ticket and you're talking to me about healing through belief.
You're a man looking at the world through a keyhole, and you've spent your whole life trying to widen that keyhole, to see more, to know more. And now, on hearing that it can be widened in ways you can't imagine, you reject the possibility.
No, I reject it because I do not believe in fairy tales about chakras or energy or the power of belief. There is no such thing as spirit. We are made of matter and nothing more. You're just another tiny, momentary speck within an indifferent universe.
You think too little of yourself.
Oh, you think you see through me, do you? Well, you don't. But I see through you! What did you just do to me?
I pushed your astral form out of your physical form.
What's in that tea? Psilocybin? LSD?
It's just tea. With a little honey.
What just happened?
For a moment, you entered the astral dimension.
What?
A place where the soul exists apart from the body.
Why are you doing this to me?
To show you just how much you don't know. Open your eyes.
And this is the time where your brain waves start to tap into higher dimensional realities.
When we say deep meditation, we mean going into that state of awareness. That's called cosmic consciousness. What you're accessing is the non-local aspects of consciousness, which are connected to past, present, future.
He looks all right to me. You think you know how the world works? You think that this material universe is all there is? What is real?
The fabric of space itself is made of energy and information. And the way this information propagates through the universe is through waves. We call that quantum waves. And so the Akashic field is made of quantum waves that are common to all intelligent life.
According to theoretical physicists, zero-point energy is an all-pervasive sea of quantum energy waves that is invisible but exists throughout the universe.
This idea of an intelligent informational field that we can access with our consciousness is not pseudoscience, it's not superstition, it is a basic fact that our scientists are finding out is really true.
Teach me.
But really, I think what people really want to know is to know how. How do we do it? How do we begin to apply some of these principles in the new science that we can begin to see measurable changes in our life? So that's one reason. The second reason is when people saw What the Bleep Do We Know or read my first book, the most common question was, great science, great information, but are there steps that we can take, things that we can do that we can begin to use on a daily basis and begin to record and become scientists in our own life to see if what we do inside of us can produce some result outside of us? Well, first of all, I'm going to give you the neuroscientific definition of mind. Mind is the brain in action. Mind is the brain at work. We have 100 billion neurons that are seamlessly pieced together. And if you can make those neurons work in different sequences or different patterns or different combinations, you're producing a different level of mind. So you have a mind to brush your teeth, you have a mind to talk a language, you have a mind to drive your car, because you're making your brain work in unique ways. So mind is the brain in action. Now, the interesting quandary is that the brain is just an organ. It's no different than a liver or a kidney or a gallbladder. It's just a piece of tissue. But we now know, according to the latest research, that we can change the brain. So the question is, who's changing the brain and the mind? The brain can't change the brain because it's just an organ. And mind is the product of the brain according to neuroscience. And so the answer is that 13-letter word called consciousness, that immaterial aspect of ourselves, that level of self-awareness that supersedes the brain to produce different levels of mind. And so when we have streams of consciousness moving through the brain, the end result is called mind.
Anyway, this is breaking the eggshells. This is what we're doing now. We're starting to break out of this false reality and start to see beyond it. And that's the worst nightmare of the Illuminati. And that's one of the key reasons they're desperately, panic-strickenly pressing on with this Orwellian state. Because once you break through this level of perception into the infinite level and bring that down into this reality, you start broadcasting that around on the alternative internet between DNA on the same wavelength. You start to wake other people up. People say, what can I do? When you wake up, you cannot walk down a supermarket aisle past people without affecting them on some level. You cannot do it because your wavelength starts getting picked up. We are like broadcasting a new drumbeat.
In the last years of the 20th and now the first years of the early 21st century, science is now giving us that reason for our logical mind to make the connection, to see how we're related and how we influence the world, and how by honoring that connection through our hearts, we literally have the power to influence the very fields of this planet to sustain life in the world, sustain the health and the healing and the well-being of our bodies. And it's all about the magnetic fields of the earth.
After years of studying the nature of electromagnetic and gravitational fields, celebrated futurist and Nobel Prize nominee Dr. Ervin Laszlo announces that he has found evidence of the A, or Akashic field.
Dr. Laszlo took work from the discovery of the quantum zero-point energy, which is a radiation field that exists all around us that we can't perceive, but we can detect it indirectly. It's very solid theoretically. It was first discovered by Einstein. So we know that the zero-point energy exists, and it carries a lot of information about the universe in it. Laszlo proposed that this didn't carry just a physical information about the physics of the universe, but also it contained intellectual information.
Where this really came into focus was around the events of September 11th, 2001. It was during that time that the United States has two satellites. They're called the GOES, G-O-E-S, Geosynchronous Environmental Satellites, I believe is what they're called. One positioned in the northern hemisphere, one positioned in the southern hemisphere. And the role of these satellites is to measure the magnetic fields of the Earth and send back readings every 30 minutes. And those readings normally fall within a certain range of data that scientists are relatively used to seeing. Well, it was in September of 2001 that scientists began to see some readings that were off the map, just off the scale compared to what they'd seen in the past. And they said, well, what's happening? What is it that could be influencing the magnetic fields of the entire planet to such a degree that we're seeing these big spikes that our satellites are sending back? We've never seen these before. They overlaid the data from the satellites onto a calendar of months and days, and lo and behold, what they found is that the spike was occurring precisely during the time of September 11th, 2001, and even more precisely that the first spike occurred 15 minutes after the first plane hit the first tower in the World Trade Center. Now, the reason this is so important to a scientist is because for 300 years, our science has been based on two false assumptions. The first false assumption is that everything is separate from everything else, that what happens in one place has no effect on what happens anywhere else, and if it looks like it does, it's only a coincidence. The second false assumption is that our inner experiences of thought, feeling, emotion, and belief have no effect on the world beyond our bodies. Based on those two false assumptions that have been accepted for 300 years by scientists, I can see why there would be a disconnect when they're looking at magnetic fields of the Earth spiking precisely the moment the human emotion of the planet is focused on a disaster. This led to a series of studies, and the bottom line to the studies is this. What they found is that it is human emotion, specifically the magnetic fields produced by the human heart during certain kinds of emotion, that now are documented as extending far beyond our bodies into the physical world, and now to such a degree that our satellites hundreds of miles above the surface are able to pick these up. This has led to a number of studies now showing that when a certain number of people come together and they choose in a moment of time to create a precise emotion in their hearts, that emotion literally can intentionally influence the very fields that sustain the life on planet Earth. These fields are now implicated in everything from the immune response of humans throughout the planet, climate, weather patterns, cycles of war in peace, our ability to solve problems, our cognitive abilities. All of these, as different as they sound from one another, are all linked to our relationship to the magnetic fields of the Earth. So what makes this so beautiful is every human on the planet is linked to the field, but not every human on the planet has to be consciously aware of their relationship to benefit from what a relatively few number of people come to understand. And the bottom line is this, is that when we choose to feel feelings that create what is called coherence in our bodies. Coherence is the language, the quality of the language between our heart and our brain. Certain kinds of heart-based experiences, such as appreciation, gratitude, forgiveness, care, compassion, those are the ancient understandings that have always been taught in the truest traditions of our past, and now our own science is finding that those same traditions are now documenting this very real effect in our hearts. When we can feel those feelings in our bodies, they're mirrored in the field, and everyone benefits from the experience of relatively few. Well, the question comes up often as to whether or not we can actually measure human emotion. What scientists are now documenting is the effect of emotions upon the heart field. The human heart is now documented as the strongest generator of both electrical and magnetic fields in the body. Now, this is important because we've always been taught that the brain is where the action is. The brain has an electrical field, it does have a magnetic field, but they're relatively weak compared to the heart. The heart is about 100 times stronger electrically and up to 5,000 times stronger, 5,000 times stronger magnetically than the brain. And the reason this is important is because the physical world as we know it is made of those two fields of energy, electrical and magnetic fields of energy, electromagnetic fields. Our own physics books now tell us if we can change either the magnetic field of an atom or the electrical field of the atom, by doing that we literally change that atom. We change the stuff that our bodies in this world are made of. And it appears now that the human heart is designed to do both, to change both the electrical field and the magnetic field of our bodies and our world, and they do so in response to the emotions that we create between our heart and our brain. What we find is this: it's less about attraction and more about a mirroring. And here's what I mean by that. The world around us, our own science now is telling us there's a field of energy that underlies all physical reality, and it is known now by names that range from simply the field. Lynn McTaggart wrote a beautiful book entitled The Field about this quantum essence. Some people call it nature's mind. Some scientists call it the mind of God. Some call it the matrix. Some call it the divine matrix. In 1944, the father of quantum theory, Max Planck, identified this field, and he called it the matrix. That's where this term came from. And what we're now beginning to understand is that when we create the feelings of what we choose to experience in our lives, everything from conscious choices of the perfect relationship or abundance in our lives, or the healing in our bodies, or the healing in the bodies of our loved ones, that those feelings are creating the patterns of magnetic and electrical field in our hearts that are literally rearranging the stuff of this quantum soup, this quantum essence, allowing the pattern of what we have claimed in our hearts to become manifest in the world around us. So it's less about attracting from a scientific perspective and more about consciously creating the template within us, knowing that the stuff of the universe will congeal around that template in the world around us to simply mirror, reflect what we've claimed. In other words, a very simple way of looking at this, and we've all heard this before, is that we must become in our lives the very things that we choose to experience in our world. Now the science is giving us a very good reason to understand why that is.
Quantum physics, the strange theory of light and matter. In it, he explored the idea that electrons in our brains can be activated and informed by quantum waves, affecting our thoughts and subconscious.
So Richard Feynman talked about the quantum entanglement theory and the idea that you could have subatomic particles at any distance whatsoever, and they could affect each other, where information can be sent at great speeds, instantaneously, actually.
The human brain is full of electrical activity that creates radiation that a very sensitive radio receiver could pick up, and other minds, other places would also be able to send such waves. Feynman found from the idea of a quantum field of information, an electron moving in our brains could be receiving radio signals from the past, but to compensate, it must also receive waves from the future. Now, this means that every electron in our brains is actually a receiver.
Information could traverse to any part of the universe instantaneously.
I think the goal is universal love. We should all learn only to love. Only two things I think are important. There is no death. Absolutely there is no death for a human being, for your consciousness, and we're not alone in the universe. And we're all one in energy-wise. Thank you.
If we put out love, we'll get love back. And not love, I love you darling, toy down the disco, but love that says, I love you whatever. Why? Because I am you, you are me. We are one consciousness. It's only our perceptions that divide us, not our conscious awareness, infinite reality. Infinite love is the only truth. Everything else is illusion.
Walk with an open heart and naked eyes to something so vast. On this planet, in this solar system, in this galaxy, inside this universe, countless universes and systems of worlds and dimensions intersecting and interpenetrating in a joyous experience of this present moment. being separate is closing. It is a great step up in our evolution into multi-dimensional awareness. A new man will be born. Homo Celestis. One who can live in peace on the earth.